What is going on, everybody? Paul here, coming at you with your Crypto Coffee update, where we start the day by discussing news and upcoming events in the wide world of crypto, all while enjoying our fresh cup of coffee. So, join me now for our simultaneous sip. Now that is how we started off right. So, first things first, the news. EOS back in the news again today. I know we've covered it at length before. However, I waited a couple days on this one to see if it would remain relevant, and indeed it did. There is a major issue with the centralization process in the EOS voting system. Instead of having the original 21 notary nodes that you would expect, it's been talked about at length, now there is only one. That's right, a single block producer is running the EOS elections, and a lot of folk don't even know who he is. Let's go ahead and get into this great article by Gary McFarland. You should go check it out at the source. I'll link it below in the description. First thing, a conversation between Dan Larimer and the EOS team. This seems to be a way to reach the 15% threshold that is needed to kick off the EOS main chain instead of having all these block producers mining at random. You can see at the left-hand side in white the logic offered by Dan. The problem with having many ABPs is that they are irreplaceable until the chain is active. If 7 of them drop, then the chain is dead forever. Now, I don't personally understand how having a single entity run the voting would solve this issue, since even if 3 of them drop off, then you still have 4 left until your chain is dead. But if one single entity drops off, then the chain has gone kaput. But who knows? Bottom right-hand side, yikes. That seems to be the reaction from many individuals, EOS members, and observers alike. Next up, you see Ivan from the EOS Sweden group asking about this issue, about the anonymity of the block producer. And how will that choice be done? The response from the EOS team in bold: it has been done already. The appointed block producer was notified yesterday, I think. So who is it? So, we don't know. Wow, they don't know who the block producer is and can't tell a curious community member. That is a worrisome situation in my opinion. Now, I wanted to highlight how this voting process is undertaken, just for the safety of anybody who's listening that may be an EOS token holder. Now, how you have to vote is why I wanted to bring this subject up. In order to vote, you have to enter your private keys manually into a legitimate block producer's voting portal. This is a very risky thing. There are plenty of phishing websites or just non-legitimate block producer portals that are trying to take your private keys. And again, none of this is financial advice, but this is just something that's actually happening to keep an eye out for. You can see here it's pushed some users into what others have described as a Saul-like situation, where either your chain is useless and you're never going to have a real EOS chain because nobody's voting, or you got to take the risk and vote. So it's a rough economic calculation for a lot of people. And a lot of users are deriding Dan Larimer for not predicting it. But apparently he did. Not in EOS, but in BitShares. You can see from this clip here, one of the first things we learned from BitShares is that the vast majority, 90% plus of stakeholders, didn't participate in voting. This is due to the fact that voting requires time, energy, and skills that most investors lack. They just don't care enough to do it because they're investors. They're not trying to actually integrate themselves into the system. They just want that sweet benefit of investing early and holding on. And this is something that a community leader, Juan, over at Cryptide, has been saying consistently for a good while now. Being that the crypto field is just going on a decade in age, and Dan Larimer is a young individual himself, he's already participated in 3 big crypto projects. You can see here BitShares, he's behind the chain Steemit, and of course EOS. A lot of individuals praise him as like a child prodigy blockchain developer because so smart, so good, built nice things, but there's not a lot of time to test these chains in the real world, and we're just now seeing a lot of the problems that these chains are bumping up against, including but not limited to mining centralization from the outset of the Steemit chain, a lack of voting participation in the BitShares system, and now a seemingly almost complete failure to launch the EOS system in any reasonable and meaningful way without just having it as a legacy database. So a lot of things to keep an eye on. Anybody holding EOS tokens out there, be careful, be smart, use critical thinking, and do your own research. If you have any questions about anything like this, or even if the block producer might be legitimate, hop into the Cryptide Discord and we can chat about that and see what we can find. Next up, we have Binance. They're set to offer crypto euro pairs, which is very exciting for anybody holding euro that wants to hop into the market. According to Bloomberg, the CEO of Binance, after a recent Malta move that was announced in March, mentioned that later on in the year, they're going to be plugging in a euro portal to buy some crypto. So that's fantastic for Binance, one of the already largest exchanges in the crypto space. And it seems that they may add more fiat pairs, although he didn't specify what those pairs may be, assumingly something like the US dollar or maybe the Japanese yen, depending. And Binance is not alone. You can see here Bitrex, just a handful of weeks ago, announced that they will be listing BTC USD trading pairs for some clients. Notice the some clients, being that Bitrex is a United States-based exchange, they have a lot of regulatory hoops to jump through. So nonetheless, it's interesting to see a lot of these major exchanges breaking into the fiat onboarding market. Previously, things that have only been regulated in the United States, at least, to Gemini and Coinbase. So more competition coming down the pipe. And speaking of Coinbase, Ethereum Classic will be listed on the monolithic entity. After the announcement, Ethereum Classic jumped 30%. Now, this has left some feathers ruffled. Tron people and XRP folk are not happy. Definitely ruffled some feathers there. However, it is a difficult process deciding what coins to list when you're based in the United States specifically, because they're not looking at coins in terms of just technical capacity or volume and how much money they can make. Coinbase, being a large regulated entity, has to consider the legal implications of listing various cryptos on its platform. That's why it took them so long to list any ERC20 tokens like we saw previously, and perhaps why they chose to list Ethereum Classic over things like Ripple, which may or may not be a security based on the many lawsuits that we've seen coming out in recent weeks. You can see here a quote from the article. It should be noted that Coinbase has some very strict requirements when it comes to choosing particular cryptos to be listed on the platform. As I said, they don't care about volume or popularity, they care more about the legal requirements, and it is extremely complicated. And one more piece of bonus news before we sign off for the day. Chinese government considers relaxing the ban on cryptocurrency trading maybe potentially could happen in the future if they don't ban it again. And here you can see they're going to be checking out the cryptocurrency ban. They already banned ICO websites earlier this year. They could bring them back. Nobody's really sure. One thing is for sure, though, reminds me of the old China meme. They've already banned Bitcoin, but can they do it again? And will it work? So far, every single time, the answer's been yes, it works. But that's all we have for the news today. Let's go ahead and get into the happenings of Wednesday, June 13th. Very important point here, the CBOE futures for Bitcoin are expiring today. We've mentioned some of the implications that these futures have on the Bitcoin market. And keep in mind, last Crypto Coffee update, we talked about a great price collapse. Could that major price decline seemingly out of nowhere have been influenced in part by the CBOE futures expiration? Who knows? If anyone has any data, let me know. It's a very interesting question. Next up, the MJAC Blockchain Summit is happening in London. There's a blockchain conference in Kazakhstan. The ACM SACMAT 2018 conference is kicking off in Indianapolis. The Wi-Fi 2018 conference is happening in Norway. CES Asia is kicking off in Shanghai. The Lisk meetup will be in San Jose. Cardano is having their meetup in Zurich. And that's it for Wednesday, June 13th. For Thursday, June 14th, only a single thing I could find. There's a Startup Europe block forum happening in Vilnius, Lithuania. That's all we have for June 14th and for your Crypto Coffee update. Thank you so much for watching. Your support really does mean the world, and without your ears, I would just be talking into the void. If you found this content valuable, you can pay it forward by helping somebody else out by sharing it with them, or by dropping us a like, either on Steemit, DTube, or whatever platform you're listening on. I mentioned Steemit and DTube specifically since we do get some cryptocurrency bonuses, as all of our content is completely free, and it's just whatever you feel like paying, even if that's only attention. But for now, I'm Paul, signing off. All links below in the description, along with a big old list of B-list tokens. They're not bad coins, there's just way too much to report about, as I'm sure you could understand. So go ahead and check that out and see if there's anything relevant for you specifically. Join us in the Discord, where there's always good conversation going on about all kinds of happenings in the world of crypto, and look forward to talking to you guys next time. Oh, and remember, the tide is rising.